Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode review of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Today, we are taking a look at Season 1, Episode 3. There's a title to it, but I just don't know what the title is. But yeah, this is the third episode of the brand new series, and yeah, it's another good one. Clearly, we're still setting up a lot of stuff at this point in the season, so I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. Tells you how little I have to say because I used whole 3 times back to back to back. But yeah, no, there's still a lot of setup in this episode as our now all of our principal cast are now together and they've met and they're establishing dynamics, which is good. So we're still kind of early on because we've got Silvo. I'm pretty sure his name is Silvo. At least that's what I'm going to be calling him. Because his fake Jedi name is Gerard or whatever, with the Gerard, something like that. Not Gerard. It's weird. It's like it's just a bunch of. It sounds like a made up Star Wars name, but so just for simplicity purposes, I'm going to be calling him Silvo because that's what the pirates call him. Whether or not his name is actually Silvo, who knows? We will see. We will find out. But so we've got Silva with the kids now, and spoilers, he's not a Jedi, as you know, pretty much everyone knew, everyone figured out. Now how he was able to move the key yet to be seen. I mean, they do a whole they do a whole bunch of discussion. It's like it's like name me 2 ways that you can fake floating something. It's like mirrors, repulsor lifts, string. It's that was a funny little exchange. I liked that. So I'm gonna find it interesting how these characters all kind of end up meshing together, because I think this could go one of 2 ways. The way I'm expecting it to go is that by the end of the series, the kids have really become attached to the Silvo character, and the Silvo characters become very attached to them, and they are going to have to part ways at the end. It's going to be emotional, and it's going to be like he's changed them for the better, and they've changed him for the better. And it's going to be this kind of, it's going to be a Long John Silver, Jim Hawkins kind of separation, where it's like they did mean a lot to each other, but they have to go their separate ways just because that's what's best for both parties. So, and given how much this show is clearly taking from stuff from the 80s, and there's actually a lot of Treasure Island in here. Of course, Treasure Planet is based on Treasure Island. And then just typical, just like lots of pirates things in general, because like there's peg legs. It's like SM-33. That's obviously Shmi from Peter Pan. So and it's Space Tortuga. So I mean, there's just they're dumping a whole lot of pirate stuff in here. So I think that's kind of the direction this is going to go. But another direction I could see this going that could be interesting is if this guy, there's like moments where it's like, oh, this guy could improve, but he's just too much of a scoundrel. And he does kind of always lie and betray the kids at every turn. And he thinks by the end of the show, like he thinks he's kind of got the upper hand and he's going to be able to be the one to skirt away with whatever treasure they find. And then the kids end up leaving him and like returning home and like stranding him on the treasure planet. Hey, and like, so maybe he does get the treasure, but then he's left all alone, and that's kind of his comeuppance, that he doesn't have anyone to share it with or prove that he's the one that found it or something like that. I could also see that being a direction they're going in, but I don't think that's the direction they're going in. I think it's going to be the first one. And again, with this being really based on, taking a lot of inspiration from Spielberg films from the 80s and stuff. You had some of that stuff in there. So I think that's the direction that's going. But the kind of darker the kids get the upper hand on this adult character, I think that could be interesting too. So we'll see if that's the direction they end up going. But like I said, I don't necessarily think that's where they're going, but we'll see. So new character introduced in this episode. her name is Kay or something like that, and she's a little owl bird creature. I found this character very charming. And I like that before you see her, you kind of start to maybe understand some of what she is before the grand reveal, because like she's got this big collection, and she's there and she's in an observatory and all that, and then it's the reveal that she's a bird creature. It's like, oh, okay, so yeah, a lot of this makes sense. It's like, especially with the big hoarding collection and everything. So I really like this character. I hope she comes back. It's like I said, there was kind of a whimsical charm to her. She felt like a character that you would see in a movie from the 80s. Of course, she was a CG creature here. In the 80s, she would have been animatronic, or maybe stop motion or something. But it was what it was. I really liked this character and her kind of popping up I will admit, I thought that they legitimately killed her off at the end of the episode when like the stack of stuff fell on her, and you kind of saw her, she fell in the big stack of things and it fell on top of her, and you saw her wings flap up in the air. I thought that was like, oh shoot, they just killed her. That's really a whimsical character, and they just killed her off, and then she brushes herself off and gets up. I'm like, okay, good, phew, thank goodness, because I like this character. So I do hope she comes back. That'd be fun if she comes back. Speaking of coming back, I was pleased to see that the rat went back and found SM-33 and continues to live in his eye hole. I really like that. That's what I was talking about last time. It's like, I just actually kind of like it if like these two kind of creatures were kind of intertwined. Like the rat just always lives in SM-33's eye now. And he just always pops up. And so and like I said, it would have been funny if the rat just disappeared and was never heard from again, but I do like that he actually went and found his nest inside 33's head. And now we've got this droid rat combo character that's always running around. I really like that. I'm glad that they fix that, like when 33 went down at the end of the last episode, I'm like, great, now they're gonna have to find parts to really fix him or something like that. But no, it was really just the flick of a switch, turn him back on. It's like he was just temporarily short circuited. So I'm glad that was pretty quick. It was pretty funny how it's like how Silvo pretty quickly figured out who the droid was, and I was like, yep, all right, this is you, because of course it's going to be you. And then then the escape from the pirate port was, I think, really cool. And playing kind of more with the light speed physics, which I find interesting when they do that. I think Rebels was really kind of the first canon thing to play with light speed physics in terms of the interdictor cruiser being introduced. And then we've kind of been getting like little itsy bitsy small things playing with physics in terms of light speed here and there. Of course, a big one is going to be the Holdo maneuver from Last Jedi, which is of course referenced a bit in Rise of Skywalker. And then there's like a brief moment from Rogue One where Vader's flagship, the Devastator, comes in out of hyperspace too close to that poor GR-75 transport, and it just slams right into the hull. So I like here that the way that they were playing with light speed physics here. It's like, okay, so would the tether remain tethered if they were to go to light speed? The answer is no. And then the force of the ship jumping to light speed and then flings it backwards, and it causes chaos at the pirate port. I really like that. Something I'm also picking up about this series so far is that there's a lot of kind of surprisingly violent deaths. Because first episode and two, the two I really want to discuss, and I'm assuming they're deaths. It's like some of these things look really fatal to me. But the two specific deaths I want to talk about is the beginning of the first episode when the pirate ship is attacking the transport cruiser, and the docking clamps, boarding tubes latch onto the cruiser. There's one guy running through the hold, and then he's too close and he gets flung against a wall when the boarding clamps latch on. That was kind of brutal. Then in this episode, this third episode, then when the cable is flung back after their ship goes to hyperspace, it impacts with the dock. There is some poor guy that does get crushed. I don't think I'm mistaken. It's like he does get crushed by that thing, and you hear a little ah, and then it proceeds to like cause more chaos and really mess up the docking platform and, and everything. So and of course the firefight at the beginning, there was some kind of shot, it's like kind of some brutal deaths there, it looked like, in terms of the way people were getting shot and stuff, which I found a little surprising, because a lot of times, and something I will say about a lot of the live action Disney stuff when it comes to Star Wars is I feel like blasters feel really lethal in. It's like people complain about lightsabers not necessarily being as lethal as they have been in the past with Disney Star Wars, but I think, and it's to a degree, I think I'll agree with that. But at the same time, I think they've made blasters like really way more lethal, because there's been I can't even count how many blaster deaths in Disney era Star Wars that I've actually kind of been shocked by how visceral they are, and Rogue One has a ton of them with like how forceful the impact is. This early bit of Skeleton Crew had some, and there's like one or two in like season 1 of Mando that I was also like, ooh, that was actually kind of brutal. So where in like the original trilogy and the prequels, I feel like blasters just kind of just knocked people backward. Granted, it was a whole lot of, most of the people you saw getting shot were just stormtroopers, so there's armor there. So I mean, there would just be a puff of smoke, and then they'd kind of fall over a lot. And then in like the prequels, a lot of people that were getting shot were just CG creatures like battle droids or clone troopers. There was, you'd occasionally see some Naboo guards, but like they would just get shot and they'd just flop over. Like in the Phantom Menace, you can see some guards getting shot and stuff. They would just kind of flop over. But in Disney era Star Wars, I mean, like you get hit by a blaster bolt, you get like flung back 30 feet sometimes. I feel like it's like, dang. It's like, so that is something I have noticed with a lot of this new Star Wars stuff. And so the beginning of Skeleton Crew, I'm like, oh boy, it's a fun kids show where kids go on an adventure. And oh my gosh, these people are getting murdered with blaster bolts and they're going flying. Ouch. So that kind of caught me off guard. And so, yeah, there's some more kind of like brutal deaths in this one, with the guy getting slammed by that cable. And then I wonder what happened to the Ishi Tib that was in the droid bay. Because they leave that death, or they leave that character ambiguous. Do they survive or not? But I'm sure that was supposed to be just like a one-off, just in that moment character. So, I think the highlight of this episode for me, other than the new owl lady, probably KB and how smart she's showing herself to be. And I remember her name now. Because the first 2 episodes, she was a little bit more background, but this episode she got a couple more moments to shine. So I'm liking how it's like, and so I am kind of curious. Is her intelligence a byproduct of the stuff that's attached to her? Or is she just naturally smart and then she uses the technology to aid her smarts? I'm curious to see how they explain that and where they go with that with her character. So and just the visor thing is cool. Just her being able to flick it up and down and everything. I'm just a sucker for small little details like that. So yeah, liking this character so far. I'm liking all the characters so far. 33, especially, like when he and Silva were talking in the captain's cabin, and it's like, tell me, are the kids actually from At-Aten? It's like, I'll tell you what I know, and that is, they definitely be from a planet. And then he backs up out of the room, and then he comes back and he just goes, and backs up out of the room again. It's like, that was totally not necessary, but it was hysterical and I loved it. So, yeah, I really think that's all I have to talk about with this episode. Like I said, it's still a lot of setup, still, getting I think a lot of moving parts are now settled into place, and we're going to really see how these characters bounce off of each other and interact more in the next episodes going forward. So yeah, I'm still liking it so far. I haven't had like any great big negatives yet to point out. I'm just really liking it. This is gonna be a fun little show to have on around the holidays. It's like, oh yeah, let's have another little weekly adventure with these kids, you know, out in space. So yeah, looking forward to more. And yeah, I enjoyed this week. So anyway, thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.